The man grabbed the feces on the ground and looked at it carefully. Suddenly he seemed to find something. Then he smeared the feces on his face and ordered everyone to smear it all over their bodies. They laid down on the ground and crawl. It was a hunt 20,000 years ago. The target was the herd of yaks ahead. Suddenly 3 ants crawled on the man's hand. He didn't even look at them, and he just swallowed them. It's been too long since they've eaten anything. The chief gives the order. All the men roar and charge at the yaks. The yaks were not to be outdone, and they came at them. On one side were the starving humans. On the other side is the mad herd of cattle. As the two sides got closer and closer, the opportunity finally came. Throwing guns. The fence formed by the yaks is blocking their path. The yaks lose their direction and instinctively turn around. They rush towards the edge of the cliff. The herd is in chaos. Hundreds of yaks fell down the cliff. Suddenly one of the rats reacts. He starts to attack back. He rushes straight towards the son of the tribe's leader, Kota. He was looking at the fierce yak. Lacking hunting experience, he was tipped over by the head. Kota's eyes were filled with fear. The yak attacked again. Kota was hung on its horns. Kota was hanging on the bull's horns and rushing towards the cliff. The father, desperate to save his son, he throws his spear in his hand. Instead of stopping, the angry yak, instead, it ran faster and faster. The yak came to the edge of the cliff. The yaks came to the cliff's edge and sent Kota flying with one head. By the time the clan reached the edge of the cliff, it was too late. Kota is hanging from the cliff with one hand. He could have fallen at any moment. His father yelled at him not to let go, but the rock he was holding suddenly snapped. He was falling fast. He fell heavily on a rock. Looking at Kota, who was so close and so far away, the father was very anxious. He wanted to jump down and rescue him despite the danger. A member of the clan pulled him back. He told the man, "Your son is dead, but you can't let anything happen to you. As the chief of the clan, you must take us home." Then the clan began to collect the prey. The father kept calling to his son from the edge of the cliff, until it was dark. There was no answer from below. It seemed that the boy was indeed dead. The next day, the father erected a stone tombstone. With grief, he turned away, though his son was gone. But the clan still needed him to watch over them. Not long after, the father left. A vulture on the hunt found him. Kota was not dead. Beneath him lay an abyss. Desperate, he called out to his father. His foot was broken. The desire to live fills his brain. He tries to climb down. His fingers clenched on the tiny crack. Suddenly his feet slipped, and he lost his leverage. He could only rely on his hands to hold on to the wall for dear life. He was hanging halfway up the mountain. Cannot go up and cannot come down. Once he lost his grip, he was sure to be shattered. At that moment, the sky was raining heavily. The rain converged into a river below. Kota's physical strength also reached its limit. Looking down at the unknown depth of the rain, if he jumped, there was still hope for his life. Kota decided to make a desperate attempt. I don't know how long it took. He miraculously survived again, but the wound on his foot got worse. Thirsty, he crawled to a pool. He drank some 20,000-year-old muddy water. Then he took off his shoes. His swollen foot looked like a pig's foot. He found some stones. He placed his foot in the middle. With great pain, he broke it with great force. The bone was reset. He made a fixed brace. Now he could finally walk. He dragged his tired body to the top of the hill. By the time he came up, there was no one there. He only saw the tombstone his father had left for him. At this moment, he was desperate. How could he go home without his father? At that moment, some wolves howled from not far away. He was instantly frozen in fear. He started to run away in panic. The wolves were in hot pursuit behind him. The tree became his hope for life. He could save his life if he got down on it. The wolves bit his foot. In pain, he pulled out his dagger. He stabbed the gray wolf. The crisis was over for the moment. The wolves stayed under the tree for the whole night. They did not disperse until dawn. Only the wounded gray wolf was left behind. Kota made his spear with a dagger. He wanted to finish off the gray wolf. But when he heard the gray wolf's cry for help, Kota's heart softened. After all, he was a man who was afraid to kill even a wild boar. How could he do it to a wounded gray wolf? Looking at the dying gray wolf, Kota decided to save it. The wolf was lying on the ground, dying. The boy tried to save it. The wolf bared its fangs. The boy was scared and froze in place for a moment. He got a rope and put it around the wolf's mouth. Now he couldn't show his teeth. The boy picked up the wolf. He went to the river to clean its wounds. He named the wolf Alpha. Suddenly some hyenas were on them not far away. Kota rushed away with Alpha in his arms. He escaped to a cave. He finally got a good night's sleep. The next day he picked some herbs and put it on his injured foot. He had just taken a sip of water to recharge his energy, but there was a cry from the Alpha. Kota turned his head to see. He found that the Alpha had removed the rope from his mouth. Kota was very scared. He tried to pass the water. The wary Alpha grimaced at him. Kota was frozen in fear again. He kept mouthing soothing words. The Alpha seemed to understand his words. He gradually dropped his hostility towards Kota. He began to drink from the bowl of water. Kota found some worms. He treated Alpha's wounds. The wolf was now very well behaved. It didn't look like your pet dog. The next day Kota found a rabbit. To survive, he finally did it. Kota returned to the cave, preparing to drill wood for the fire. But the Alpha started to get excited. He tried to take the rabbit's meat. Kota slapped him with his hand. He bites off a piece of raw meat, and he declares who the boss is. It was like the Alpha had suffered a great deal of grief. He lay on his back and didn't dare to move. Kota took the fire. At night he ate a delicious roasted rabbit. The Alpha looked on and drooled. Kota threw some bones at him. Alpha ate it with great pleasure. He forgot he was a wolf. After a period of recovery, Kota and Alpha had recovered from their injuries. He had to return to the tribe before the snow came. Before he left, he said goodbye to Alpha, but Alpha was lying there, unwilling to leave. Kota set out on his journey home. He hadn't gone far. He found the Alpha following behind him. No matter how hard he tried to chase him away, Alpha wouldn't go away. Kota used a wooden stick to chase him away. The Alpha took the stick in his mouth. He followed meekly, and so one man and one wolf started the journey home. In the company of Alpha, the hunting was much less complicated. He could eat delicious roast meat every night. The friendship between the wolf and the man grew stronger. At night, as the campfire goes out, Alpha will come closer to him to keep Kota warm with his body. The scene looks intimate. When he wakes up in the morning, Alpha will keep licking him, but he stank so much. Kota took him to a nearby river to take a bath. They had a great time playing in the river. Alpha even caught a big fish. The bond between the wolf and the man grew deeper and deeper. Autumn and winter came. The whole wilderness is covered with snow. At night, Kota was enjoying a meal. Alpha suddenly rises in a defensive stance. Not far away, the wolves are watching them, but the Alpha made a surprising move. The king of the wolves approached with a fierce spirit. Kota was frozen in fear. At that moment, Alpha walked toward the Wolf King. He said to the Wolf King, "This is my brother in the back. Give me face. Let's forget about it today." I didn't expect the Wolf King to go away, but the Alpha didn't leave. He seemed to be asking for Kota's opinion. Kota knew very well in his heart, Alpha didn't belong to him. Although Alpha was very reluctant to leave, in the end, he chose to leave. Kota set out on his journey home alone. Without Alpha's company, Kota was very lonely. He continued his journey toward home. Perhaps it was destiny. While passing through a sheet of ice, Kota spotted the Alpha not far away. He ran towards it with excitement. Unbeknownst to him, the danger was coming. The ice suddenly shattered. He fell into the cold, biting water of the river. The undercurrent swept him far away. He couldn't find the way up. His life was at stake. That's when the Alpha appeared. He was up there trying to find Kota, and then it leaped. He tried to break through the ice, but his weight was not enough. In the nick of time, Kota pulls out the dagger in his arms. With several blows, he finally cut through the ice. Alpha rushed to bite his sleeve. Kota was able to escape from the danger. The temperature was tens of degrees below zero. He was shivering from the cold. The Alpha kept licking his cheek. Kota took off his clothes, which were already frozen. He held the Alpha with his back against the fire to keep him warm, but he still had a bad cold. This time, the Alpha didn't leave. He decided to escort Kota home. The weather became worse and worse. Suddenly some hyenas appeared ahead. Alpha and Kota were running wild. The hyenas were chasing after them. He and Alpha went into a cave, thinking they had a brief moment of safety. Unbeknownst to them, there are more powerful creatures inside the cave. Alpha takes an attacking stance. A black panther slowly appears. He pounced hard on Kota. To protect him, Alpha rushed forward without fear, but he was no match for his size. The panther was tearing at him. Kota kept his bow and arrow on target. Then an arrow killed the panther. When the battle was over, Alpha stood up. After seeing Kota safe, he could no longer support himself and fell to the ground. This time Kota saw him as one of his own. He vowed to take him back to his tribe no matter what. They moved on. Kota found the stones the tribe had piled up. He plucked away the snow and found the markings. This meant he was not far from home. The blizzard was getting worse. Alpha was seriously injured. Every step he took was a struggle. His body had reached its limit. Before he could go far, Alpha collapsed to the ground, looking at his companion who was fighting alongside him. This time, he really couldn't make it. Kota picked him up. He would not abandon him in life or death. I don't know how many days and nights he had walked, over how many snowy mountains. Kota held on with his fantastic willpower. He finally saw the tribe, but Alpha's life and death were unknown. He returned home with a tired body. Even his father couldn't believe it. Kota pointed his finger in Alpha's direction. He pleaded with his father to save Alpha no matter what. When he woke up again, the first thing he did was look for Alpha. Alpha was still dying. With the witch's help, Alpha gave birth to a litter of wolf babies. It turns out that during the journey home, Alpha was pregnant all the time. The clan was touched. Soon after, Alpha recovered. The litter of wolf babies grew up. They became part of the tribe. In the following days, wolves accompanied everyone in the tribe. After a long time, their offspring evolved into another kind of creature. They were called wolf dogs, a healing film of man and animal. Although the story is thin, but it shows the friendship between people and animals to the fullest. If you have a pet too, then please make sure to treat it well.